All right, good morning, fifth grade. Welcome to your first math lesson of your season. This is Math Lesson 1, Sequences and Digits, and we're going to be talking more about what both of those words mean. So, a little bit of review. Counting is a math skill we learn early on in life. If we want to count by ones, the numbers would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, right? I don't care how bad in math you think you are, there is not a kid in the room who doesn't understand that, right? So, these numbers that you use to count are called counting numbers. It's 1 through infinity, only no 0, because when you start to count, you always start with 1, don't you? You don't start counting at 0. That's why they're called the counting numbers. But we can also count by other numbers other than 1. So, for example, here are the first 5 numbers counting by 2's. 2. And then if I added 2 more to that, you'd have 4. And then 6. And if I added another 2, you'd have 8. And 8 plus another 2 would be 10, and so on, right? Same thing here if we were counting by 5's. You'd start with 5, add another 5 to it would give you 10. If I added another 5, that would be 15. If I added another 5 to that, 15 plus 5 more is 20. Add another 5 to that, 20 plus 5 more, that should give you 25. So this might be the spot where some kids are going, boy, I don't know about this, but I'll believe you if you say so, Mr. Hines. But if you're not sure, hit pause right now and just do the math however you need to figure it out to make sure you understand what I'm talking about here. So if I take that same sequence when I was counting by 5's, an ordered list of numbers forms a sequence. A sequence is a group of numbers where there's a recognizable pattern. I can look at this and yeah, they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger because I'm adding 5 each time. Because it's a recognizable pattern, I can call it a sequence. Each number in the sequence is called a term. 5 is the first term of the sequence. What would be the third term of the sequence? Well, 5 is the first. There's the second term. So 15 would be the third term of the sequence, right? 25 would be the fifth term in this particular sequence. Term is just another word for number. It's a number in a sequence. So we can study a sequence to discover its counting pattern, or what the book is going to call the rule. And the rule can be used to find more terms in the sequence. So if I had this same sequence where I'm counting up by 5's, and I know 5 is the first term and 10 is the second term, and so on, what would be the sixth term of this sequence? I can know my rule is count up by 5's, right? 25 was my fifth term, so my sixth term, I'm going to count up by 5 again. What's 25 plus 5 more if I'm counting up? That's going to give us 30, right? The sixth term, once I know the rule, would be 30. Do we all understand what just happened there? I keep adding 5 each time to each one of the terms to find the next one. So if I need to find the extra term after that, add 5 more and you'll have it. A little secret right now that not every fifth grader I've met always knows going into the year, so I want to spell it out here. If the terms in the counting sequence are getting larger you are counting up. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. The numbers keep getting bigger, right? So you're counting up. And you have to figure out the rule. I'm counting up by how many? 3 plus what will give you 6? 3 plus 3, I bet, right? 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 more will give us 9. 9 plus 3 more, hey, that's going to give us 12. 12 plus 3 more is going to give us 15. And so on, and so on, and so on. Looking at the numbers, you can figure out the rule, and once you figure out the rule, you can always figure out what the next term is going to be. So if you understood if the numbers were getting bigger, here's just the opposite. If the terms in the counting sequence are getting smaller, you are counting down. Here I'm starting with 12 and going to 10 and then 8 and then 6, right? The numbers are getting smaller, so I know I'm counting down. The rule is I'm counting down by 2's. 12 minus 2 gives us 10. 10 minus 2 is going to give us 8. 8 minus 2 is 6. And so on and so on. Once I know the rule, I can figure out any term in a sequence. So they're going to be asking you questions like this. What is the next 3 terms in this counting sequence? So whether they want you to write it down or not, you always have to start off by figuring out the rule. So, are my numbers getting bigger or smaller? I'm starting with 4, then I have 8, then 12, 16. The numbers are definitely getting bigger, aren't they? And if the numbers are getting bigger, we said that means we are counting up, right? So, let's figure out the rule first. The rule would be count up by, how many are we counting up by? 4 plus what is going to give us 8? Or the other way to figure it out could be, if I started on 8, minus what is going to give us 4? Or if you really paid attention last year in math class, 4, 8, 12, and 16, they were all answers when you multiply by what? There's about 3 different ways of getting this answer. The numbers are getting bigger, so I know I'm counting up. Do you have it figured out yet? We are counting up by 4, aren't we? Counting up by 4. So now let's go ahead and try to figure out the next 3 terms of our counting sequence. So if I'm counting up by 4's and my last term that I have is 16, 16 plus 4 more, hey, that's going to give me 20, isn't it? So now I have 20, and I'm going to add 4 more to that term. 20 plus 4 more, hey, that's going to give me 24. And 24 plus 1 more 4, since I'm counting up by 4, that's going to give me 28. So the important thing on these, and they're going to be asking you questions like this for about the first 50 lessons. So it all starts right here. You want to really have this skill down because so much of our year is based on it. So again, if there's any part of this that you don't understand, hit pause and just back it up a little bit. That's the beauty of having it online, right? You don't have to feel embarrassed about raising your hand and asking questions. We can always just hit repeat and you'll hear me explain it again. So this one is pretty close to the other one, only now in the directions they're going to tell you to describe the rule. Whenever you read this, they actually want you to tell how many you are counting up or down by. And then they're also going to ask us, what is the next term in this sequence? About the trickiest part about this is making sure you read the directions as closely as possible. So, when they're actually asking us to describe the rule, let's go ahead and say, are we counting up or are we counting down? Well, are the numbers getting bigger or smaller? Numbers are getting smaller, Mr. Hines, so it should be count down, right? I'm going to be counting down by how many? 56 minus 49. Or you could try to go from 49 and try to count it up to 56. Or like I said on the other page, if you really paid attention, you got a pretty good handle on your multiplication tables. All these are answers when you multiply by what number. So let's go with just the easiest way right now, 56 minus 49, and hopefully you know that would be 7. I am counting down by 7s this time. 56 minus 7 is 49. 49 minus 7 is 42. 42 minus 7 is 35. So now that I know my rule is count down by 7, 35 minus 7 more is going to give us how much? 35 minus 7, hopefully everybody can figure this out. That's going to give us 28. Alright, not too tough I don't think, but again, anytime you're confused or you're not understanding what I'm saying, hit pause, back it up, because there will be a quiz that you must pass every day about what I'm explaining to you here. So we're going to see some problems like this. Write a sequence that uses the rule count down by 6s. And whenever you see these, I'm going to say you have to use at least 4 terms for the sequence. Now, some kids will go and they'll want to start right at 6. But the problem is, you got to make sure you have at least 4 terms. And every so often I get a 5th grader who understands negative numbers, but not that often. So you got to make sure you're going to start high enough that when you count down 4 terms, you're not going to get it smaller than 0, right? So, and it doesn't even have to be a multiple of 6, and maybe you don't even understand what I mean there. But basically, pick a number and just count down by 6 from it. So, let's try, I think I'm going to go 60. Maybe you wanted to start on a different number. That would have been fine. And if I'm showing a sequence that count down by 6s, so 60 minus 6, hey, that's going to give us 54. 54 minus 6, because I'm counting down by 6s, hey, that's going to give us 48. 48 minus 6, and that's going to give us 42. It doesn't really matter where you start, but like I said, most of the time you don't want to go past 0, and if you do and you're stuck, all I'm going to tell you is erase and start over. Let's try another one here. Some more terminology. Math is a lot of different vocabulary, And most of the time on these lessons, I will highlight the important vocabulary words for you in red. And I'm here to tell you, if I take the extra time to change the color on it, I do that because I think it's really important and I really want you to pay attention. So this says there are 10 digits in our number system. These are the 10 digits, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, right? The number 385 has 3 digits, because 3 is a digit, 8's a digit, and 5's a digit, right? The last digit is 5. I'm going to throw one here that's not on the book. What's the first digit? Did you figure out that it's 3 is the first digit? All right, let's try another one here. The number 987,654,321 has 9 digits. If you don't believe me, count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? The last digit is 1. What's the first digit? 9, right? Okay, so digit is just another word for numbers. They're the 10 numbers, the single numbers that make up every other number in our math system. So we're going to see some problems like this. Describe the rule for each counting sequence. That's one sentence worth of instructions, and we should know that. That's if you're counting up or counting down, and by how many. And it's going to say, then write the next 3 terms in the sequence. 2 sentences, 2 steps of direction, right? So let's start off with describing the rule first. I have 6, then I have 8, then I have 10. Are the numbers getting bigger or are the numbers getting smaller? Numbers are getting bigger, Mr. Hines, you should be saying, so I know I'm counting up. I'm going to count up by how many? Well, 6 plus how many gives us 8. I am counting up by 2s, aren't I? That's my rule. So now that I have my rule, I can figure out the next 3 terms in this sequence, can I? 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 plus 2 more is 10. 10 plus 2 more, okay, that's going to give us 12. 12 plus 2 more, hopefully you know, is 14. And 14 plus 2 more, hopefully you also know by that time, it is 16. Okay, the trickiest part about this, because not every day are they going to be asking for the same thing. Maybe they'll ask for the next 4 terms. Maybe they'll only ask for 1 term. Make sure you read your directions every time. So let's try this again. Same directions, describe the rule for each counting sequence, and we're again going to write the next 3 terms in the sequence. So let's take a look at the terms we have. I have 45, then I have 40, then I have 35. Are the numbers getting bigger or smaller? That should always be the first question. And the numbers are getting smaller this time, right? So I know it's a count down. I'm going to count down by how many? Well, 45 minus 40, or if you have trouble subtracting, go the opposite direction. 40 plus what is 45? Or if you're really on the ball and you understand your multiplication tables, 45, 40, and 35 are all answers when you multiply by 5s. 5 is the answer we are looking for. So now that I have my rule, it's easy to find the terms, right? 45 minus 5 is 40. 40 minus 5 is 35. So 35 minus 5, hey, that's got to give me 30. Count down another 5. 30 minus 5 more is going to give me 25. And 25 minus 5 more is going to give me 20, right? I think everybody basically understands that, don't you? Let's go ahead and try one more like this, okay? Here it says, same directions. Describe the rule for each counting sequence. So I have to write it down. And again, then we will write the next 3 terms in the sequence. First thing to always ask yourself, are the numbers getting bigger or are the numbers getting smaller? Am I counting up or am I counting down? What am I doing this time? 36, 30, 24. That sounds to me like we are going to be counting down, right? I'm counting down by how many? I'm counting down by 36 minus 30. Hey, hopefully you know. Do you have it? We're counting down by 6s, aren't we? Okay, once you have the rule, then it's just a matter of applying it to the terms and figuring out 36 minus 6 is 30. 30, count down 6 more, it's going to give us 24. 24, count down by 6, that's 18. 18 minus 6 more, or count down 6 more, that's going to leave us with 12. And our last term today, 12, and if I count down the last 6, is this going to leave us with 6. This is why it's so important that by the time you hit 5th grade, you should have those subtraction facts memorized. If you're having to do this on your fingers, I feel sorry for you, but you're going to really want to work as hard as you can to get these facts memorized. Alright, let's try something a little bit different this time, and we've already talked about it. How many digits are in each of these numbers? Remember, the digits are just 0 through 9, so let's just count them. Here I have 36,753. So how many digits are there? Looks to me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So how many digits? There are 5. Here I have 4,871. How many digits are there? 1, 2, 3. There's 4 digits there, right? Hey, this is kind of a big one. Here I have 1,234,567,800. And believe it or not, that's not the largest number we're going to deal with in 5th grade this year. But it looks pretty big, doesn't it? But it's pretty easy to figure out. How many digits are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is a 10-digit number. Not too tough yet, I don't think. What's the last digit in these numbers? Here I have 19, so I should know we read numbers left to right. So the last digit is 9, right? Here I have 675,347. What's the last digit? The last digit, hey, that's a 7. Here's a smaller one, 3,578. So what's my last digit? Last digit's got to be 8, right? So again, we did one like this before. Write a sequence that uses the rule count down by nines. And remember, when you have these type of problems, we're going to use at least 4 digits in a sequence. So just make sure that you don't go smaller than 0, because most of y'all don't know about negative numbers yet. Some do, and I'll be really happy when that happens. But most of the time, most 5th graders don't. So I'd always start with something pretty big. I'm going to start with 90. That should be big enough that I don't have to worry about going below 0. So I'm going to count down by nines. 90 minus 9, that's going to be 81 for the next term. Pretty easy there. 81 minus 9, that's going to be 72. And 72 minus 9, that's going to give us 63. Now, depending on where you start, these are one of those subjective math answers. There can be more than one right answer, all depending on what you wrote down for your first term. The important part is that you consistently count down correctly. And the end. So after this, I'm going to hook everybody up, hopefully with a Socrative quiz. After today, you will just view the lesson whenever you think you're ready. You will take the Socrative quiz, but you must have a passing grade on it, or you will have to go back and retake it. All right? Any other questions, raise your hand, and I will certainly explain. Good luck in your 5th grade math career. We take our math very seriously. You're hanging with the big kids now.